Claire, she actually did a beautiful job on the artwork and stuff, but she actually also tweeted about it too. And Michael, the author, he actually retweeted it saying, join in. So I was like, that's so cute. Because I didn't tell him that we were doing this. Like, it just happens to be like, you and I, you know, we like reading and learning and stuff like that. But the reason why I liked that movie was the book. You could see how the book transforms people's lives, right? Like,
right.
When I read something, I take something from these books that change things for me. Like, I don't know, like this one threw me for such a loop about so many aspects of things.
Well, I mean, in the coaching profession, like, I mean, there's the thing, Rich Lipton has this thing of like a lot of questions. And even I heard him, I was watching a video of him on the weekend, and he said, Michael has come out with a much more succinct way of the questions, you know, and it really is. And because the whole purpose of coaching for me, and for most, I think, of the community is really tapping people into their own wisdom. Right. Mm-hmm. And we really are just kind of, we have the space and they have the floor.
Yeah. No, it's so true, eh? Like, I guess if the questions that he always asks, like the thing, like, I've now used the word out of curiosity so many times.
Yeah.
Like, not just on the podcast. Like, a friend of mine, she was talking about, like, she's in sales and technology. And so that's what I used to do too, right? It was sales and tech. And it's a real man's game. And so she was like, you know, I'm the only girl on the team or whatever. And she goes, well, how did you used to kind of get their attention? And I said, you know, I used to say, you know, hey guys, I have a dumb question or whatever it was. And so this is what I was telling her, like, this is like a while ago, like this is like, you know, almost a year ago. So I saw her like about 4 months ago or 3 months ago after reading this book. And I said, I have a better answer for you about how you can get people's attention at a table.
Right. Yeah.
And they said, the out of curiosity. She's like, oh my God. I go, it just neutralizes everything. Like,
it does. Yeah.
And she's like, oh my God, I think she's been using it a lot too now, that doesn't put people in defense. But even like sometimes you want to say to people, like, that's a real stupid question, but they kind of allow in a way that's kind of nice, you know? And so I was laughing about that because I was like, oh my God. But then, you know, the other stuff, like, he throws me for such a loop about, you know, because I use it for all consultancy stuff, right? Like, the why, you know, we're always supposed to find out the why and the values behind things. And I loved how he was talking about changing it to the what. Ask the question about the what, so it's even less defensive. Like, I'm like, yeah, I guess it would make, you know, why, or did you think this, or why did you do this? And I'm like, why? You're right. It kind of feels a little, I don't know. I was just kind of thrown for a loop with that one because I was like, shoot, because I always look for the why behind things so I understand people's intent and purpose.
What I found different when I went into coaching versus being in management is I would ask the why question, like why do you want to do that? Or why, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of the things. But then in like coaching, the out of curiosity question is so good. And I work with a lot of people who are going through separation and divorce. So conflict is there. And when you can get two people at the table and say, out of curiosity, like, I want to understand how you're seeing this, you know? And it's just, it's such a game changer.
I find myself that people are responding to me a little bit differently too. Like they see me softer, like, you know, as opposed to command and control all the time. Like, they're thinking, hey, you know, it's kind of neat. Like, I feel softer, and I feel like I'm willing to be a better listener too, because, you know, that was the thing too, because asking the questions in a kind of like not leading the witness kind of way, you know, the responses throw me for such a loop that I actually become a little bit more curious. I really do become more curious because I actually don't know where the question is going to land or not land. Where before, I think when I was asking the questions that was direct or whatever it was, I didn't give it room to play properly.
Well, and them to have a voice. Like, and there's a thing where it's one of the things where if you have somebody at the table, like, I used to assume, oh, I knew what they were going to say. Oh my God, I know what you're going to say, and blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm busy. Whereas now it's like, no, I went to a workshop last year and it was on deep listening. You go in as an empty vessel, you know, because sometimes when I'm working with people who've been through trauma, I would want to point them to their resilience. I want to point them to this innate wisdom that they have inside. But that was my ego and my agenda, right?
Yeah.
So when you go in there and just be empty, and that's what this does, is it gives them the opportunity to have a voice that they might not even know. And this is our job, is to help them tap into their wisdom, right?
That's so true. That's so true. But it's even like, I don't know, things like some of the words that he uses, like I now think a bit more like, the one that cracked me up was, if you're saying yes to this, what are you saying no to? I'm like, oh. That's so powerful, because I do have the right to say no to other stuff and prioritize, and I don't have to do it all. And that one kind of, I was like, this is so awesome in helping with my prioritization, because I'm like, first, what am I going to say no to? It's like, every time I buy a new pair of shoes, I have to get rid of another old pair of shoes. I've been trying to really play with, because I'm writing that book, right? And one of the things I put in that networking book is about, one of the things that management consultants do is that we never have lunch alone. And I was like, this is perfect, because the book club is like, talking about once a month during lunch hour, so you can eat and just kind of chat with people in a whatever virtual world is such. I thought this is a great way of not eating lunch alone, plus talking about something, and whether you've read it or not, you can still benefit from whatever. And then
it's fantastic, because it gets you away from like whatever your daily grind is too.
But isn't that kind of a weird thing that, like, that's why, like, on my podcast, like, I don't get into this long, like, I don't read people's biographies. I I'll say what they're about in some ways, but I find people struggle. If I say, like, now tell me about yourself, you probably tell me about your job or something like that. But people I don't think they kind of search for themselves anymore. I don't know if I'm articulating that.
No, I think you're right, because even when I was writing the networking thing and I was teaching the students, every time I ask them the question of what do you do, that's the question people always ask. And everybody rhymes out their entire resume. People just don't want to show any of their quirky things. I actually interviewed this woman, and it's coming up very shortly. She's actually does a speaker salon, and she actually helps a lot of presenters get on stage for TEDx things and coaches them on how to present. And she teaches people how to present themselves. And I was asking him, like, of all people, you kind of know better than anyone else how to engage an audience and captivate them up front, right? Because we only have, they say 10 seconds or 11 seconds to make a really great first impression. So she gave some really great tips and stuff like that. And it just, again, she was like, people are so afraid of being themselves that they'll rhyme out God knows whatever, the whole CV, and you're like, half asleep.
Right. Well, and the other funny thing is with bios, it's like we write our own bios and send them to whoever, and then they're like saying all this stuff, and they're like, oh, thank you for that great introduction. And it's like, but I wrote it. So I'm just like, when somebody introduces me with all that, and then I just get on and I'm like, don't I make myself sound amazing? Like,
but I also think because leaving corporate world or whatever, and not corporate world, leaving my old life, and I'm transforming as a human being, about getting a bit more clear about what I like and what I don't like, and having that, as opposed to, I think I'm starting to really change a lot too. Like, I actually want to be more down to earth. Like, I don't care for high level positions anymore. Like, I actually just like doing fun stuff and actually working with clients and drawing on the board and making magic happen and seeing how things go and being more informal. Like, I actually like wearing sneakers. Oh
my God.
No.
It's a different stage in our lives. It's you strip away the egos, you strip away the rat race piece of it, and you just want to do what you enjoy.
What feels good.
Yeah.
What brings you joy? Back to
Yeah, exactly. Marie Kondo again.
and that's the thing, and it's like one of these things where it's honestly, now I'm like, does this feel good in my body? And if it doesn't, I'm like, no, not doing it. Somebody asked you to do something, because it's like, but yes, like I'm a big kid. I sometimes my son's like, Mommy, please don't, please don't do it. But if it feels good and it makes me happy, I'm going to do it. Now, I don't, can we swear? I don't give a shit. If like,
whatever we want.
Like whoever says whatever, that's about them. I'm living my life and I don't need permission to do that.
I'm with you. I'm telling you, I'm so 100% with you on this, because that's the thing about, not to go back to the book, but the other section I really liked was about sections about reasons to say yes and what to say, bad reasons to say yes. I actually even like put little sticky sections on my book, because there's certain things I was just like kind of, holy crap, this is actually really relevant to me, because you're right, we've changed our DNA and we're becoming a little bit more. So one of the things it says, good reasons to say yes is because something you're naturally curious about. And I was like, this is what, right? Like, this is what brings us joy. Look, I'm using the quotes, your quotes, joy. Because there's things we want to learn. There's things we have an appetite for, and being that. So I was like, that's kind of really cool, because it's a good reason to say yes to something. And I was like, I forgot. Like, I may not get much other stuff out of it, but I got to learn something new, and that's good enough for a reason for me. And I like the fact that he validated it's good enough of a reason to say yes.
Exactly. And it's one of these things, what I thought was interesting is that, because in the saying yes means willing to be curious, it's like when he's asking more questions, like why are you asking, whom else, like have you asked and stuff like that. And it's amazing to me when you kind of pause and you ask these questions to people, how uncomfortable it makes them.
It does, very much so, because I notice, at least, like, people will complain a lot, right? But they don't want to look for the solution, but the solution's within, their reach. And all it takes is, like, he has got some really good questions, like in that series, to drill down to that and say, like, what is it for you that you're looking for? It's not about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, that was true. You know what, Jules? There was a section in the book, he had this diagram, I don't know if you could see it, but it had the victim. The three characteristics that everybody goes through. I thought that was so crazy, like, interesting. And I was like, oh my gosh. And the problem is, I play the rescuer a lot.
Oh God, me too.
Yeah.
But that gets me into so much trouble, because I end up giving up so much of myself and I get nothing back.
Well, and here's the thing with that. There's two things. I'm actually right now I'm releasing in the spring. It's like a victim versus ownership of your life, like course. And like, it's one of these things where so Julie, when you're saying yes to that, you're saying no. If I find as rescuer, we say no to ourselves personally, whether it's self-care, whether it's time, whether it's whatever, because we're always saying yes to other people to please them.
Yep.
And the other flip side of that is that when I first became a coach, this was a real challenge for me, is because I want to help people, but realizing that when we want to rescue people, like, do we have permission to do that? Like, we think they need to be rescued, but do they? No,
I'm with you.
It's one of these, but the victim versus owner, what people don't realize is when they put themselves in, like, the victim box, they limit their potential. They give away all their power just to stay in this, poor me, my life is awful,
But they said in the book that that's why you actually attract rescuers. And what's funny is, so Jules, I was telling Jessie Lynn, this is a couple weeks ago. Actually, no, it was last year, in December, that I had to kind of shred some friends in my life because, and the guilt of, the loyalty and everything else, because every time it's just so much drama that comes with it. Everything is just so hard. Like, it just sucks up so much of my energy up there. And it was kind of neat when I was reading this. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's true. Like, they're always complaining and all those things. But what threw me for a loop was, but the persecutor and the rescuers is that, this is on page 137, 38, it said the benefits of us playing this role of being this, we actually feel morally superior.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? shit,
Yeah.
this might be true, that we are becoming, feel we're indispensable, we're doing all those things, and maybe that is our way of controlling things. And I was like, oh my gosh, but it's like the other two roles were both saying that we actually both feel a bit more superior because of the whole power.
I see
sure,
that.
I did the rescuer in relationships. That was me. 100%. I'm going to rescue you. I'm going to fix this for you.
That's true, actually. You were the rescuer.
Yeah. It didn't work. Like, the brilliant thing about this book, though, and these questions is, okay, so if I'm working with parents, I could ask parents these questions. If I'm working with kids, I could ask kids. They're like across the board. They're you can use them in so many different contexts. Love that.
That's so true.
It's so interesting. But yeah,
and it also gives you the opportunity to assess yourself in those situations, like his little exercises in between, which was great.
Yeah.
I'm still thrown that, feeling morally superior because we believe.
But it makes sense because it's like, I find I do this is that, I've learned my lesson in whatever it might be. And I come through and I'm giving advice to somebody in the rescuer position. And it makes me feel good to say, hey, I was successful.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And to his point, right, like he does say that it's not descriptions of who you are. It just happens to be how you're behaving in a certain situation. Because we all play them in different places. Like, I know I'm the victim when I get sick. And honestly, I can whine like there's no tomorrow.
It's interesting now where I'm a lot more cognizant of having permission before I'm a touchy person. You know what I mean? Like I love to like just touch or have my hand on somebody's arm or leg or whatever. And it just, it was one of the, when I started having a lot of males when I was managing, I had to really watch that. But it's one of these interesting things with touch. But again, it brings it back to like, it brought me back to the permission, having permission to like, even asking these questions. I went to a gathering on Saturday night and a mother was telling me that her daughter has anxiety. And with no permission at all, I started I was chatting with a little girl, but I totally started like working with her like I work with kids when they have anxiety. And it was like, I thought about it after I got home. I was like, you're a dumbass. Like, that's just, just have a conversation. But we do so many things without permission. And even bringing it back to like the rescuer and the persecutor in here, I often would think that I knew better or I had the answer. And if somebody came into my office, like when he talks about like the 10-minute coaching, if somebody came into my office and I was busy, I'd be like, oh, here they come again. I already know what their issue's going to be and blah, 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 blah. And so I'm just going to start telling you right off the bat,
Oh, feeding a solution rather than letting them talk.
Yeah.
I get it. His book is about coaching and stuff, but I actually think this is an essential life skill, this book. Like, I really think it's an essential life skill because some of these questions, I was like, when you're doing sales or business development and trying to understand a client's needs versus what their wants are, like, and then really understanding the difference, this really helps you probe in a way that's kind of meaningful. And I feel like there's a lot of the questions in here is to help, not just help you create a connection with somebody, but to really kind of understand what are some of the things that are, the drivers for what they're trying, for whatever catalyst of change they're trying to create. It's understanding what's motivating it. And I think that's really interesting because, I made that joke about the dating thing, but also in sales and business development, I can see this being really essential too.
It's a very much customer first approach that everybody's trying to do these days, right? Building the empathy and understanding and listening to what their needs are.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the spot, Julie. I think it's helping us become better listeners. I think that's what this book might be like helping with.
It's one of these things where that's really what coaching is about. But even in life, like, it's like in parenting, if you sit down and actually listen. But even in life now, you see people, so many people, I want to say to them, look up from your phone. You know, in a restaurant, you see like people, I've like literally sat and watched two people like not talk to each other. Maybe they were texting each other through the dinner, I don't know, but they were on the phones the whole time. And it's like, look up and look. And a lot of the younger, like the teenagers that I've been working with who are going off to university and college, they're having a lot of issues with social anxiety. And it's about eye contact. It's about actually having conversations. It's about small talk. And when they're gaming and they're spending a lot of time where they communicate a lot through text and through Snapchat and all these, they're not, there's a social part that's being lost in that.
And that human connection, right? Human
connection. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And listening to me is like one of these things where it's like, huge. Because if we don't give people the space, but it's listening and being able to be comfortable in silence long enough that they can go deeper.
Yes, because I think we are uncomfortable with silence altogether, right? Because it's such a noisy world. And so it's even more uncomfortable when there's silence. But sometimes you just need to digest. Like,
I have sat on coaching calls, like, because I do a lot of it through Zoom. My clients are worldwide. I have sat on coaching calls where I'm looking at them in a video and I have just looked at them for like 15 minutes without saying a word.
Really?
Yeah.
What do they say?
Nothing.
They're just talking the whole time, or?
No. Sometimes if there's a silent pause, like I will just like pause. There's a power in pause, you know? Because if I feel uncomfortable with that silence, I want to kind of fill it with something. Whereas if I just let it be and let them be, they can go into a deeper space within themselves. At first, you can tell by the way that they're looking at you and they kind of fidget and stuff like that. And I literally, I'll just do this.
And not a creepy stare.
No, it's not.
Scary content.
Or maybe they thought that your video went and froze or something.
Oh my God, that is awesome. Hey, but Jesse, you should put that as a quote. There's a power in pause by Jesse McDonald. That's what you need to put up there. Actually, I'll do that for Claire too, so that we'll retweet one of your quotes.
Excellent. Yeah.
That was really powerful. There is a power in pause. You know, this sounds will sound dumb or not. I went to get my hair cut a couple of weeks ago. And you know how the hairdressers are always blah, 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 chatty. And honestly, sometimes I'm in a social mood. Sometimes I'm really not. But anyways, this guy was really cool because I just closed my eyes. And later on, I said, I'm not sleeping. I haven't actually had a chance to quiet. There's just, I haven't had time to not think. And so he goes, meditate away. And I was like, what? Am I meditating? Because I was just, all I did was just closing my eyes because it was just, I just wanted to hear silence for a bit. And I guess that's that whole thing about even that power of the pause is also kind of just taking a moment or two to just kind of, decompress and just kind of, have that kind of cup of coffee or that, deep breath, because there's just so much always going on. Like, when you get downtime, okay, I got to check my phone. Okay, someone must have WhatsApped me, so I need to respond. If I don't respond fast enough, they're going to be all irritated because I didn't respond within 20 minutes or, and it's just everything seems to be really fast of communicating. And I'm just like, and I'm finding that I'm getting more disconnect in the sense of I'm disconnecting more from my phone and putting it down more now than ever, just because I'm so irritated with everyone's expectations of me doing things faster.
Yeah. How do you feel after, Sapna knows I was binging on like Gary Vee last night, but, and he's all about like, get out there, respond because it's about your business. But, and I know for you, Sapna, you have been like, completely out there because of your podcast, right? Especially because of that. How do you feel? Where does that taken you mentally, emotionally, and that, say even from a year before your podcast? How do you feel different, or if you do?
I do. I do. Couple of reasons. I'm starting to really get, like, not just in my skin, I'm more comfortable with me. And I'm not apologetic for certain things. Like, I used to say I'm sorry. Yes, I know Canadians, we say I'm sorry all the time. I totally get that. But I'm not saying I'm sorry for things I'm not sorry about, because some things I don't need to apologize for. So one of the things, for example, if I haven't responded to someone's email in 2 days or 3 days, I don't say I'm sorry for taking so long to get back to you. I'm saying thank you for your patience. You know, and I'm forgiving myself a lot more, because last year I was working 24 hours a day, not just the podcast, trying to build the business, trying to do this, have my clients and everything else. I had less time than anything else. And I was like, you know what? I'm actually not happy. Like, I feel like yes, I know we got to spin our wheels and do things and activity, but I was like, when do I actually start having other types of fun, right? Like, when am I doing those things? So I've actually slowed down on certain things, and I'm okay with it. Like, you know, so I think I've changed in the sense, I think I'm starting to get a little bit more clear about what's really valuable to me, what's important to me. And one of the things is yes, time's a luxury, but I'm okay with not doing things super fast, and I'm okay with that. Like, you know, certain things, yes, are urgent, but not everything is, and I get to dictate what is really important. So I think that has actually changed a lot for me. Yes, and I think
that's a critical part of, even in his book, when he says, when you're saying yes to this, what are you saying no to? And that's where I say, like, self-care and time. And time for your mind and your body physiologically to settle is critical.
Yeah.
You know, when you're always running at this high pace, you can't keep it up. Something gives away from that.
And then I think, Jules, the other thing I realized that what I did was I changed one workaholic behavior for another one. And so I wasn't actually solving the problem. I was just more busy with more stuff, gotta go. But that wasn't what I was trying to solve. I was trying to solve my kind of having balance and breathing and, you know, not just managing stress, but just feeling like I'm living life. Like these movies like The Book Club and Gracie and Frankie and all of those things that are happening. And I am like dying of laughter because yes, they're supposed to be, like, you know, much more older, and they're supposed to be retirement home, and you think they're supposed to be boring, but you know, they said it. I'm not done learning. I'm not done having curiosities. I'm not done being, you know, this whole learned helplessness. I'm not ready for that. And I'm like, jeepers, these guys are like pulling up, you know, life and making themselves even more relevant because they're being forgotten because everyone. And I'm like, wait, I need to be living a life that I'm so curious about and happy about, and you know, that thirst and hunger. So I think that's what's also kind of really changed too. I don't know. What about you guys? Have you found some big changes in the past year for yourselves?
Oh, you know, I have. Massive change. So just for Jesse, so after Sapna and I met at WeWork, I was kind of struggling through a number of years of trying to start my own business and trying to find my way after leaving the corporate world. So it was a good 5-6 year, ended up being like a 7-year gap by the time I came back to corporate, and I just did. But wow, the things that I guess found out about myself by leaving what that structured status quo life was, to come back to it and say, I think I kind of belong in this, but in a different perspective. It's like, it's not the end all and be all of, you know, white picket fence path, of having the corporate job and then, you know, building a family and all that kind of stuff. But, knowing that there's so much more out there that I can do outside of just putting all my eggs in one basket and being in a corporate environment. It's huge. And just now it's just comfortable and knowing that, you know what, it's a paycheck. I'll still do well at it, but there's all these other things that I can still go after and achieve. I'm not limited.
I love that.
Yeah. You know, it's one of these things, it's like how you show up. And I've said this to my son, it's like sometimes he complains on a Monday and I'm like, you know what? You've been given this gift of Monday. So you can choose to go through it and with curiosity and with, you know, happiness, or you can go through it with this lens that it sucks. Either way, you're going to go through it. I have an idea of which one feels better for me, you know, and often when I'm working with performance issues in businesses, that's one of the things where it is with people. People can be unhappy in a job. And for me, I think if I ever went back to corporate, same thing. It's like I would have when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, right? And like Julie was saying, like you don't have to have the it's the be all and end all, or like what you were saying, like the high powered. It's just, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And the meaning is whatever meaning we attach to it. And that's the beauty of it. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. Like, life is amazing. It's good to be us.
It's a tough place like to try and get to. That's for sure. But when you get there, it's a lot more freeing.
It is.
I'll tell you, Julie, the funny part of this is good to be us. Jessie Lynn has said this about 20 years ago, and has stuck with me for so long. Anyways, Matt, 2-3 of my other really dear friends, Paul, Nick, and Natasha, have like banned me from saying it's so good to be us when we go on vacation to Europe and stuff like that, because they're like, oh my God. And then for one of my birthdays, those little smartasses made a t-shirt that says it's good to be us. Just like,
nice.
Because they're just like, well, who says this type of stuff?
I say to Finley all the time, I'll do something and we'll be outside and I'll be, oh my God, it's good to be us.
Really don't have. It's crazy. Like, now I'm reading, like, I'm watching like a lot of period shows, like the Vikings and stuff like that. Like, some of the stuff, I'm like, holy, like, you know, or, you know, when they talk about, I can't remember what show it was that I was watching. Oh, I think it was Game of Thrones the other day. I think I was watching Game of Thrones, and I actually said to my sister, and I was like, I don't think I would have survived. I think I probably would have been beheaded like years.
Oh my God, yeah. Or I would have died in some corner somewhere. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, I keep thinking, going, gosh, we can't even say this, and you have to do this, and they're surprised that you know how to read, and, you know, and all those things. But some of that stuff is still happens today, right? Like,
oh yeah,
like, oh my.
Well, look at us, like, ethnically, the three of us are different. We wouldn't even probably been allowed to speak to each other not that long ago.
Oh yeah, I'm not even allowed across the borders anymore.
Right?
Well, you know, like, it's fun. Finley was asking about Martin Luther King yesterday. We were visiting with my mom and we had a conversation about it, and I was like, well, he was assassinated in 1968. And then we were talking about how little some things have changed, you know. Like, it's sad that after 50 years that there is so much racism still there. And it's interesting, but it's also interesting to see, like, Finley at school, one of his friends has, like, his friend's mother's gay. And it's interesting to see from a kid's perspective now, he doesn't know that there was a time when gay wasn't acceptable. And he's just like, oh yeah, Tiffany and Karen, you know. And so that's fascinating to me, and I love that. And he's like, one day he said to me, Mom, you know what? I could marry a boy if I want to. And I was like, yeah, you could. And just left it at that. Yeah, you could, you know. Whereas if we had said that to our parents, oh my Lord. Like,
oh yeah, no.
Thank you so much for joining and listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode or any other episode, please share with your friends and colleagues. You can share on social media, the email link, the newsletter, and so on. Let's continue to support these Canadian innovators and help them really grow into bigger brands. Awareness and knowledge is totally key. Anyways, I can't wait to talk to you next week. Cheers.